Trey, what's happening, man?
Carlos.
Sunday. It's Sunday, and it's football Sunday, but we're gonna talk a little bit of basketball. So let me turn off that music. That music's kind of nice, though. I don't know. I got to figure out how to make it cut in and out a little bit smoother. It was a little bit rough, but hey, just we were just talking about this. Like this podcast may come off kind of klutzy and this and that, but my focus this season is on becoming a better coach and not necessarily an amazing podcaster. So, and I would say, Trey, that you probably know a little bit more about basketball than podcasting, right?
Yeah, I think I have to agree there.
So, hey, look, we had our first game yesterday. We recorded already our first podcast and kind of just an intro, and really didn't get a chance to we didn't get a chance to really preview the season or do the things that we want to do. And I think we still have to do that. Maybe on episode 3, we'll kind of go through and really kind of go through a view of like a long view of the season. But we've already had our first game, and I wanted to ask you about like what you know kind of how you felt about the in-game experience, the atmosphere like that South Guilford's providing, and just in general, like what were your thoughts on the game and the game mechanics?
I think that was my second game ever going to at South Guilford. So, I was really happy to see how packed the gym was. The energy in the gym was really good. Um, we tried something new before our game, bringing in parents. And I think that actually went pretty well. We brought them in pre-game, we brought them in mid game or halftime, and I think that was a really good experience and post game. But that was a really good experience. They got to get a taste for our expectations for the girls, and I think that they see our expectations. They can also help us out. Trying to achieve what our goals for the team.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I think last night our theme, I guess for our team last night was the we called it the black light game. So ironically, we wore black uniforms, but black light we were telling the girls is sometimes you step into a crime scene and it looks like nothing's happened, and then they turn on the black light and then it's obvious that something did happen. So we wanted to give the parents an opportunity, at least we called it an open house, and have have a chance to come in and listen to our pregame, halftime, and then post games, and so they know that kind of how we're talking to the girls, what we're telling them, what we'd like to see them do, because sometimes we may be wanting to build this season and this team almost like scaffolding, so it's kind of hard when you're only seeing the first level of a scaffold to say, oh yeah, and like I kind of know what they're doing. So we wanted parents to understand, like, we're going to ignore some things in order to get some other things right. If not, then it just never builds. I've never done it. Do you know of any team that's actually done that before, Trey?
So that was the first.
What do you think of that in general? Like at least just one time.
Yeah, I think that's good for the first game of the season. Um, you know, Especially where we're just now taking over the program. So it really allows them to get a taste for the culture that we're trying to build within the girls and within the organization. So I think it's good for them to see that and, just kind of see what we're thinking, what we're trying to do and trying to accomplish.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I mean, I think it probably bothered me a lot less than it probably bothers some of the girls. I think some of the girls maybe have been slightly distracted. Not that they were looking back there, but sometimes your parents in the room, and it just you may be thinking about that. So maybe I could say it's slightly distracted more to the players than maybe the us. But I really do like it because I had multiple parents come in and say, like, we really like your messaging, and then they understood that we have a plan and we know where we're going, and I think that helps for the season.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Now let me ask you this: speaking of blacklight and telling the girls, hey, we're trying to see what we need to fix, and be able to see the things that are hidden that only the game can show, right? So like we always talk about, the game's the best teacher, right? Like that
Oh yeah.
we could have practices all we want, we could do all these things, but until you get in a game and as they say, the all the noise starts to happen, that's when you really see who you can trust, who's going to play in control, and all that. What do you think last night good or bad was exposed in terms of our team?
Uh, I wouldn't necessarily say anything was exposed that was bad. I mean, of course, if we're working on things and it just looks completely bad, then yeah, it can look bad for us. But as far as being exposed, I wouldn't say that anything was exposed. We know that we still have some work to do ahead of us, and we're still, trying to get to where we think we could go. But I thought the girls played really well. There's that. I mean, there were. I did like the fact that you could see like some chemistry between the girls. We had one of our players, Amy, step up and be one of our leading, well, tied with one of our leading scorers, which was kind of a surprise. But that's kind of a testament to what we try to teach and teaching team basketball and playing together. And if we play the right way, we'll get a whole bunch of open shots. And sometimes one player is hot, one player is cold, and maybe this game they didn't score as much as they usually do. But with the way that we do things, it all evens back out.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I mean, I think the nice thing about the teams that we've coached is that I mean, every team has players that are what I consider difference makers, right? Like night in, night out, they're going to do the things they need to do, and you kind of have expectations of those players. But the nice thing when you play team basketball is that really any given night, you never know, who's going to step up, and it becomes harder to guard. It becomes a lot harder to deal with because you can't just key in on one or two players and expect that to work. And so that's to us, and again, that's sort of what we're building. We don't want to become a one player or two player team. We want to be a squad, as we've talked about. We want to be a full squad all the way through. And so
Agreed.
I tell you the thing that was exposed to me on a positive note is I think that they're enjoying playing defense, and
Yeah.
I thought their energy was well utilized on the defensive side, and they really are trying to take things seriously as far as like the good habits and the things that you've been trying to work with them on as far as teaching. So that was exciting because I felt like they really worked really really hard on defense.
Yeah, I agree with that. Especially for what we're the difference that we're bringing in from past seasons. That is a very big point of emphasis, and you could just see the kids were trying to get everything down. Now, of course, it wasn't perfect. They're still learning, but you could see the effort was there, and as a coach, that's all you can ask for.
Yeah, yeah, and look, I mean, I know Chatham. We've known them for a long time as an opponent, and one thing I can always say about Chatham is they're always competitive. Even they've always been a well coached program. So whether they're up or down in terms of talent, they're always going to have something to for us to run up against. And so we knew that was a team that was going to come in and at least try some things against our defense. And as I said, we held up pretty well. I would say the only thing that was a little bit maybe exposed, but it's a good thing, was that there were moments where we kind of, and it wasn't many, but there was a couple times where we said, hey, we're up by a lot. Let's just kind of, let's just stay in front of them and not really play hard. And I think we were able to kind of cut those out really quickly when they happened. Would you agree that it's not going to become a habit?
Yeah, I agree. But a part of that to me is just the identity in which we're trying to play with changes, right? Like we know that we have, and I'm about to go into another segment, but we have a standard that we want to play to, and no, we don't ever compete against our opponent. We're always competing against ourselves. If we can continue to compete against ourselves, then the way that we play, we'll take our steps to get better. So yeah, there was a couple moments where yeah, you could see the girls maybe took their foot off the gas a little bit, but we would get on them and they'll pick it right back up.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that was part of the last thing I wanted to talk to you about, on this episode, anyways, is that, the hardest part as a coach is understanding expectations and standards and the difference. So, in other words, sometimes, if I'm being honest, our expectations get slightly loftier than they should be. When you have a new group, just because we've been doing something for a long time, it doesn't mean that somebody understands how to do that, right? But we've seen it, and for us, it's kind of it should be quote unquote common sense on the court. But if players haven't been introduced to certain things, we have to have a little bit of patience, and so we have to have really high standards without letting our expectations tip it over to where again, we're not being patient in the growth and development. And case in point, we had the I knows, today, during the game, where a player says I know, and there's a difference between hey, I know, I that's my bad, or I know, leave me alone. And we talked about you know when you say I know, either and you just need more time, or I know and I need you to coach me through it because I really don't know. And so they need to know the difference so that you can help them understand, especially defensively, what you're trying to get out of it.
Right. I have to give major credit to one of our players. Ashley, after the game, after our post game talk, she asked me, she said exactly that. She said, I need you to help me with this so I can get a better understanding. And so we spent about 5 minutes after, everybody left and we talked about it. And I think she started to understand.
Yeah.
But, that's a big props to her to do that, instead of being frustrated and, taking it outside the locker room. She wanted to talk about it right then and there. And we was able to talk through it and think she'll be better for it.
Yeah, I've been impressed with her maturity level. She came to me before. I think it was right before we started the last practice, and she mentioned that I think it was the previous practice that she quite couldn't hear the calls, because it was a little bit loud in there, which is good. A loud gym is a winner's gym for sure. And so she wasn't necessarily being insubordinate or didn't understand. She just couldn't hear it. And so, she apologized if she came off some type of way in terms of just looking frustrated. And I think that shows a ton of maturity in a player when they're able to have that conversation with the coach. Because at that age, sometimes it becomes awkward. She doesn't let awkwardness get in the way of clear communication. And she doesn't know us as well. We're 100% invested in every player, and we want to make sure that every player is growing and has a function. And as I said, sometimes if I'm being honest, we'll come across a little hard on them in practice because I want them to be successful. I don't want to have a player that can't come in a game and contribute. And so for us to get them there, out of the passion for us to try to get them to that place and not leave them where they're at, sometimes that can come off a little bit tough on them. Although I think we're a pretty reasonable staff. But I think, Trey, we continue to have these conversations, and we know that we have their best interest at heart. And I think they know that. I think they should know that. And if they don't, then we haven't done our job to communicate that properly.
Correct. Which, we talked about it off air, but we had a parent that both came up to the both of us and talked about that, and he could notice how much respect the girls have for us and things like that. And as newer coaches coming in, that says a lot that we are building towards that, and it is bigger than the game of basketball. That they know that we have the best interest for them. We want the best for them, and I talk about all the time. If we want to grow, we gotta live outside our comfort zone. So we're going to push you to be uncomfortable, but we're also going to be there to hold your head as you fall.
That's it. That's it. Yeah, no, I'm excited for this week to come through, and I'm going to conclude on that. Just we're going to continue to make sure that we're keeping the standard really high and the expectations tempered for where they should be. Because at the end of the day, I want them to have an amazing season. I want them to leave this year by saying, "Hey, did we won some games, we lost some games, but at the end of the day, we had the best season we've ever had," and that's really my desire for them.
Agreed.
Yeah. Well, listen, I'm excited to record more episodes. We'll get better and better. I know some of these things get a little klutzy in terms of intros and outros and the way we're recording, and we couldn't get Trey on camera due to some difficulties in terms of understanding how to do it. But we're going to continue to focus on basketball and not podcasts, but we do want to put them out there to hopefully to help others also grow and learn. And as I said, as I interview people that we'll have on Trey, I think we're going to learn a lot of stuff When we interview players, other coaches, former players, college players, and that should be fun.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
You got any final thoughts for me?
Keep pounding.
Little Panthers reference. I can't really disclose who I cheer for in the NFL because it's painful right now. So I'm going to keep that to myself. I'm going to keep it a secret.
Uh,
All right,
hopefully, I
man.
can come up with a big win too soon.
I appreciate you, man. Hey, I'll see you tomorrow. We're hitting the gym at Monday, and we're going to get after it again. And as Trey said,
It's always a great day to have a great day.
no, keep pounding, bro.
Oh, keep pounding.
See you, bud.
See you.